We'd like to welcome everyone to Washington City Council's workshop meeting for today, January 25th, 2023. I am Councilman Ivey, serving as Mayor Pro Tem today, while Mayor Staley is out of town on a work-related trip. Council, looking for an approval of the workshop agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda for the work meeting as outlined.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion by Coates, second by Martinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Our agenda item number 2 on our workshop agenda is the recreational arts and parks. We're going to ask City Manager Jeremy Redd to introduce this and do a briefing on that before we have the applicants come up.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just looking for the right file here. Okay, I think looks like most people that are here for this item, so you probably know as much as I do about it, but I'll give you a little rundown again. The Recreation Arts and Parks, or RAP tax, is an additional tax that the city charges. It's instituted countywide to help pay for projects that are related to recreation, arts, and parks. It's pretty broad items that we can use it on, and this council's decided to take all of their RAP tax money and make it available for certain items within the city. We don't use any of it for operations within the city at this point. They have decided to commit, right now we have $1,894,358 in available RAP tax funds. So the pot continues to grow, but of that, the council has committed $747,820 for cultural facilities and arts, and they've looked at holding that much aside for a future facility, an arts building or something of that nature, which leaves us, as of this month, $1,146,539 uncommitted and available to be programmed. So in your packets, there's a table with the applications that we've received in this cycle. We've received a total of $322,750 worth of applications, five different applications. So that's my report, Mayor Pro Tem, and I think we've asked that everybody prepare a brief outline, 2 minutes or less, to kind of go over their application.
Thank you, Mr. Redd. Yes, we do have 5 applicants. I just might want to add to that this action that was taken by the county, it does have a sunset on it. It'll be up for a vote again, I believe, at the end of 2025, I believe is when it sunsets. And so the citizens will be able to weigh in on whether they would like this to continue or not at that time. So council, with your approval, I think the best way to do this is we want to hear each applicant individually and hear what they have to say. And of course, you always have, plenty of opportunity to ask questions to them while they're here, and then we will provide opportunity for us to talk between the next applicant, if that sounds okay. All right? Okay, our first applicant is Encore Performing Arts. Abigail Pearson is the applicant. You may come up. Thank you. Yep, come on up. So let me explain that.
Thanks.
So what you're doing right now is this is our work meeting, and so you'll be presenting your application here, and don't be nervous. We don't bite at all. Okay, just relax. You're good. But what you'll do is you will present it, and then we'll ask questions now. Then in the regular council meeting, it'll just be an action item that we will vote on then. But this is for Encore Performing Arts. They are asking for RAP money for theater arts, mentorship, and instruction, and they're asking for $45,000.
Yes. So we've been in the, did you want me to get closer? Okay. We've been around for about 2 years.
You know what,
Oh,
Abigail,
sorry.
I'm going to have to, I need to back up just a little bit. Would you please, when you come up, would you please state your name very clearly so that we have it on our public record? I apologize for interrupting you.
So my name is Abigail Pearson, and I am the Executive Director of Encore Performing Arts. We've been around, we're a nonprofit organization. We've been around for about 2 years. And we are primarily around to educate and help kids with educational and performance opportunities in musical theater. So we have classes that we offer. We do performances all the way from kids age 7 through 18. We do little kids shows that are 30 minutes, and we do hour-long shows, and we do 2-hour-long shows, and we provide classes. And one of the main things that we're really trying to do is help these kids gain an education in musical theater. We all know that musical theater and the arts can not only help you be a great performer, but it can help you as you move on in your life and other things that you do, whether you're on the city council or you are a parent or you are a teacher or whatever it is that you choose to do in your life. The skills that you gain in musical theater can go with you. And we just really felt like there was a hole in that in our community, as they have an opportunity to go into musical theater as an adult, but as kids, there just wasn't a lot of training. And so that is really what we're trying to do, is create an educational opportunity and performance opportunities for these kids.
Would you share just some of your history when you started and kind of where you?
Yeah,
how it
so
started?
it's interesting. We started during COVID, when everything sort of shut down, and my kids are in theater, and I know lots of my friends' kids are in theater. And so we decided to put on a little show because the kids just didn't have anything to be doing at that time. And we reached out to Tuacahn, and they had kind of closed down a little bit, and they let us to use some of their facilities, which was really, really beneficial and really nice of them. And it was a great collaboration. And so we put on a show. And so my friend and I, we said, "Ooh, this is really great." And it really was such a really great experience for the kids that we decided to do it again. And so we put on another show, and then we thought, there's something to this. There's something more. Our community really needs something to bridge them from not only what they're doing in their schools to go into professional theater or to go into adult theater. We needed something that was going to provide higher quality education and higher quality experiences for them. And so we decided to form our nonprofit Encore Performing Arts. And so I have 3 partners, Adam Rickard and Tara Griffith, and we together have produced lots of amazing things over the last 2 years. We have a fabulous show choir, we have performances, we have classes, and our main goal is to find the very best mentors that we can for these kids to help them gain the best skills that they can, whether they go into, I don't know why I'm so nervous, whether they go into theater or whatever they choose to do in their life. Yeah.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
Yeah, I think I have a clarifying question. It's just on the application. So it says 45,000 is what they're requesting, but then in their actual financials, they say RAP tax funds requested was 25,000.
I'm so sorry. We're so new at filling out these applications. I'm so sorry. And we reached out to an outside source to help us. And so
So what are you asking for?
we're asking for 25,000.
25? Okay. All right, just thank you for
Sorry.
the clarification.
I apologize for that.
Thank you, Councilman. Good catch.
So is this make you more nervous, or performing make you more nervous?
No, I don't perform.
Oh, you don't perform?
I don't perform. No, my expertise are gathering really, really great mentors and helping them educate these kids.
Well, I wouldn't have seen that. You're doing great. But where do you plan to hold your performances? Are they all over? Is there one venue?
Right now, we primarily work out of the Electric Theater in downtown St. George. We definitely, one of our main goals is to be able to expand throughout the whole St. George area and region. A lot of what happens is that kids go into their schools and they get an opportunity to do whatever is happening in their schools. But that's it. If you don't go to that school, then you don't get to be a part of that opportunity or that performance or that experience. And so our hope is that we can be able to find everybody, that wherever they live, they can come and they can participate in what we're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions. My first question is, have you applied for RAP tax in any other cities?
We have, yes.
Received those funds from other
We've
cities?
applied for Washington County and St. George City.
And you've received those funds?
Yes.
So how much did you receive from them?
We received 15,000 from one and 12,000 from another.
From another. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And then my next question is, do you have any information on which Washington City residents, like in your programs? Do you know the numbers? Is it 15 or is it 30? Is it
That's great. That's
100%?
really, really good. I would say 30%.
30%?
What do you think, Justine? Oh, 50%. Yes. Yeah. So yes. So my partner lives in Washington City, and so he brings in his crew, and I live in Santa Clara, and I bring in my crew, and then we have.
And I'm
the St.
sure
George.
you know exactly where that boundary is between St. George and Washington.
I am-
like
yes.
everyone does.
She's,
The
she'd be
line.
the only one, right?
Yeah.
I want.
Well, besides me, I'm the
cross
one
it
that I swear
daily.
on. Okay. No, I was just curious if you had an idea, and that seems 30 to 50% seems. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
It says $65,000 ticket sales and admissions. Do you, when the kids sign up, is it like baseball? They pay a fee to join? How much is that
Yeah, that's
fee?
great. So, we try to get money in all sorts of ways, and they definitely do pay to participate in the program. So we have anywhere from a week-long camp that's about $100 to the show choir that's about $300 to we're doing Music Man, which is a 2-hour show, so that's $159, and then we have our smaller shows like Winnie the Pooh that's happening right now, and they paid $129.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have any type mitigation if it would possibly be cost prohibitive from a student that would like to be in it or a child that would like to be in it, but they can't afford it?
It is our constant goal to find those kids that would love to access musical theater and the arts and just can't afford it. And so every single time we provide any type of opportunity, we have scholarships. Any child that says, I want to participate, they get to participate whether they can afford it or not. We do like to have them fill out applications for scholarships, so we have documentation of that. But we want to make sure that they can always participate regardless. And
Yep.
that's why some of these funds are so important.
Do you have an idea of how many scholarships you're providing right now?
That's
Or have?
It's a really great question. I should have had that paperwork with me, and I apologize. So I'm just going to go through our different programs. So our show choir has about 80 kids, and we have about 20 kids that are on scholarship for our show choir. We have our Winnie the Pooh that's happening right now, and they got we have about 5 kids that are scholarshiped on Winnie the Pooh. Music Man, we have 10 children that are scholarshiped for Music Man. Our classes, we have about 8 classes that are running right now. One of our goals when we have classes is to have smaller size classes. We're not trying to be a dance studio, but sometimes you go into a dance studio and there's 40 kids in a class. And so we are trying to keep mentor focused and have them have some individual instruction. And so we have 5 to 10 kids in a class. And in all of our classes, we have at least one child scholarshiped in each of those classes. Did you say that's about right? Okay. I don't know what that adds up to.
That's
Sorry.
okay. Council, any other questions for Ms. Pearson? So yes, we appreciate you being here today. This council is very astute. It's a great council. They ask those questions because, this money is very important to where we spend it. And we want to make sure that it benefits, our Washington City residents. And we do consider also what the benefit would be community-wide.
Do you mind if I add one more thing?
Not at all.
Okay. So one of our main goals is to be able to bring outside resources into our little town, because what happens oftentimes is we just feel like we're in this bubble, and this is everyone's musical theater experience or arts experience. And so part of what we use our funds for is to be able to bring outside professionals to come into our little town so that these kids have resources that aren't just limited to what we have in St. George. Tuacahn and the Shakespeare Festival have been amazing resources for us as we've been able to access those professionals that they're already bringing in to come in and work with our kids here in Washington City and County and St. George. And so that's been really, really great. But they're professionals, and so they
Takes money.
they don't work on hugs and kisses and high fives. They need to make a living as well. And so that's part of what we're trying to build so that we can bring that into these kids.
Oh, we appreciate you
So
being here
thank you.
tonight.
Thank you for what you all do. We really appreciate it. These kids are benefiting already from it. thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next applicant is Red Rock Music Association. I met Mr. Fox earlier, so I know he's here, and their ask is $2,500, and they've listed to go to their music budget.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you to the council for allowing us, giving us rehearsal space at the community center. Trying to find rehearsal space for 20 musicians is really difficult. And so that has taken one major burden off of my shoulders. And so I want to say thank you again. The staff is really easy to work with, and we just really enjoy the space. So let me give you a little update on where we've been since the last time I've seen you, which was last summer. We have purchased the last big piece of the sound equipment, which is how we started this road with you a couple of years ago over the summer, and some other minor little pieces of equipment that's essential for the sound equipment. We purchased music. I purchased a library from another musician, which included several hundred, actually a couple thousand pieces of music, 200 of which I gave to the Washington City Concert Band because it was concert band music. And so they were able to benefit from that as well. We received $600 in payments for doing performances for community groups, private community groups like Brio. I'll talk about that more in a few minutes. We did concerts at Peach Days. We did a concert at Brio Community. We did the First Responder Chili Cook-Off on the weekend, and that was a very fun event for us to do. And then we just played for the Sun River Christmas concert in Sun River. Upcoming events that we're doing is we're scheduled to play for the Washington City Dance and Concert at the Community Center on February 25th. And so we're looking forward to that. We're doing another event at Brio in May. And then we're scheduled to play at the St. George Farmers Market in March. And I'm still looking for something to do in April. So we're kind of looking for what's out there. We support two bands through the Music Association. One of them is the Red Rock Jazz Orchestra, and that was the first band that we started under the association. And then to a lesser degree, another band called Celebration. It's a blues, rock, pop kind of band. And we don't do much for that band, but we do a little bit. And so we're happy to do that, and we're thankful for the ability to do that. We provided sound equipment for Washington City Concert Band on occasion, and it's there for their use if they need it. And all they got to do is give me a call, and I'm usually there anyway, so we do that. So for this go around, we're kind of at a point now where we just need to maintain, just keep the association going. I've got a few bigger projects in my head for down the road, but for right now, for this year, we're really looking at just kind of being able to continue our existence and covering costs that any association would have, like liability insurance and ongoing costs like music, a little bit of music, repairs for sound equipment. When we did the chili cook-off, one of our trombone players had a full epileptic seizure, fell off his chair and onto a microphone stand, broke the microphone stand and the microphone. So, those things happen. And so just to keep going through, cover those ongoing costs. And then for this year, I would like to, and I've done it in the past, I didn't want when we first started, but I'd like to kind of go back to it. I'd like to do a concert or two with the bands where maybe rent a facility and put on a concert for the community. It's really, I'm glad that you guys are putting aside music for a performance in an arts kind of place. Because in Washington, it's really difficult unless you go to the school district and you rent one of the auditoriums in the school district, which can be a challenge in and of itself. And so having something in Washington would really be nice. So until then, I'm looking for places to rent so that we can do a couple of concerts in the community, hopefully here in Washington. And I will be contacting school districts, see if we can do that. And so really that's 2,500 bucks. It's not a lot of money, but we do have expenses over the year, so.
Appreciate that. Council, would you have any questions for Mr. Fox?
We heard from you 6 months ago. I'm glad things are going good and
Thank you.
forward to seeing more of those. I think my only question is, do you let our staff know when those events are? I don't remember seeing any and I could have missed it, but I just would like to attend one is all I'm asking.
Absolutely.
So if you could just
Well,
let our staff
the
know.
the thing coming up in February at the community center, actually, I contacted staff a couple of weeks ago. It's still on the calendar, so that's good. We were going to do it last year, and it got canceled because of lack of ticket sales. But they're going to kind of redo the advertising on that. So some of the things we do are for private community groups like Brio. And we do have a Facebook page, and we have a website. That's another one of our costs is a website. But on the Facebook page, I try to put up things in advance so that people can plan to go. So if you look under Red Rock Jazz Orchestra, you'll probably see our Facebook page. And for instance, Peach Days, we advertise that ahead of time. And so we do. When we get things, we try to get it advertised. I haven't really done it through staff yet, but I need to contact them again and see if we can work something out where there's we can get on some kind of schedule or something with the city rather than just the dance, but do something more. I'd like to do something more formal.
Mayor Pro Tem, can I ask a question?
Sure.
This is just kind of for my own personal knowledge. So if you guys or another band, for instance, or music organization wanted to have a concert, are there any private venues in the area where you could go, that has a stage and, enough room for people where you can go rent that and have a
In Washington
concert?
City, not that I'm aware of.
And I'm just in the area in general, St. George.
Well, in St. George,
Greater
we've
St.
rented
George
the Electric
area.
Theater before.
Okay.
I've talked to staff out at Cayenta. They have a theater there. I talked to city staff in Herkin to see if we could use their Performing Arts Center for free.
Okay.
I never got a call back.
Okay. All right.
So, but we would like to perform as often as we can. For this group, Red Rock Jazz Orchestra, I should say, probably about once a month, September through May is about what we can do.
So are artists always looking for venues but come up short? I mean, is there a shortage of opportunities venue-wise for you guys to perform?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, what I'm getting at. There is.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's why I think planning ahead and putting money aside to have something here in Washington is a great idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Do you do any fundraising?
We haven't done any fundraising yet. We have, like I said, this is my typical spiel for the group. If somebody wants us to play, or if I'm seeking someplace to play, I usually say we'll play for free. If somebody asks me how much we charge, then I usually say, well, we're a nonprofit, give us what you think is right. And it usually works out to about $300. And so that's kind of our fundraising. And sometimes, like when we did the Electric Theater, we took tips, if you will, or donations, because we are a nonprofit. So we took donations and we were able to cover the rent of the facility just through the donations that were given that night.
Do you ask for this funding in other cities?
No, not in other cities. We have received funding from the county.
How much money did you receive from them?
Well, we have an application in right now. They haven't, I haven't received any notification on that. But last year we got $4,000 from the county.
So I'm looking at your budget contains ongoing year-to-year expenses, music, printed promotional materials, but there's no paid salaries or
No.
that type of thing. It's strictly voluntary. And then just a side note, I do appreciate your relationship with the Washington City Concert Band. We're very proud of them and their hard work as well.
You know,
So
I moved here 3 years ago, November before COVID hit. And so I wasn't able to start playing with the Washington City Concert Band until the following September. I have to tell you, I was amazed last night at rehearsal how big the group has gotten since I've been here, and how much they've improved as a music group. It's really amazing.
yeah, we appreciate your relationship with them. Council, any other questions?
All right, thank you, everybody.
We appreciate you being here. Thank you. Next applicant is Utah Tech University Athletics. Mr. Cameron Chatwin will be presenting. And if you'll just state your name, and if you're in there wants to
Sorry,
state his as well.
Still trying to put it up to where I can talk and do it.
Tall guys.
So this is Sam, by the way, by the chance, and like I said, my name's Cameron Chatwin, and very happy to be able to be in front of your wonderful people and then the council to discuss the partnership that we have with Washington City. Some wonderful things that have come from this partnership really have been beneficial for a lot of our students, especially a lot of those that have been able to have internship opportunities with the city. We've been able to actually attend a lot of the elementary schools to involve them with cyberbullying and stopping cyberbullying with different events. There's also been other opportunities that have been able to be presented with just invitations of coming to the games and showing the camaraderie between the university and Washington City in itself.
So Cameron, would you share just a little bit with the council about the participation that you've had with Cotton Days in the past? I know we had baseball players here last year that the kids really quite enjoyed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's been extremely beneficial to have a lot of our teams kind of be very involved with the community. I think that's something that we really truly value, and opportunities to be able to support and more importantly, even just do community service hours. That's something that we really try to teach and to our student athletes. What's really important is to be able to give back with things that they have the opportunity to be able to be kind of looked at as heroes, essentially, to many children's eyes, and also to the community for what they're able to do. But being able to be involved in Cotton Days and to be able to help show their support behind just community service, I think is extremely valuable.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Mr. Chatwin?
Where does all of the cash income, where does the money go that you're requesting? How do you allocate the funds?
Yeah, absolutely. So all the funds that have been able to kind of help support like the cyberbullying, we've been able to buy T-shirts, and we've been able to kind of attend those schools. It is distributed between our teams as well. And so for them to be able to go and travel, and to be able to receive books, to be able to receive really graduation, everything is involved for our athletes to be able to succeed in school, to be able to help them to really just to graduate as well.
So some of the money goes towards the athletes to buy books for their classes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then you also go to different schools and you buy shirts, and then you give those shirts out to the elementary students that you're there for?
Yes, ma'am. Yep, and allows for also the different renovations for our athletic programs, such as Greater Zion Stadium and other things. So our athletic director, Ken Beezer, he's the one that kind of distributes the funds according to the different teams that are in need or the building renovations.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
What percentage would you say would go to like the elementary schools and things like that, as opposed to like, to the athletic program just for facilities and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. A majority of it really does kind of go towards back to the elementary schools. Yeah. So percentage wise, you're looking about 50%.
So I'm on campus quite a bit. I see the Washington City RAP logo. That's part of your policy as well, that would be displayed on all your marketing and anything that has to do with, that would be a benefactor of RAP funding from Washington City would be shown on those things as well.
Yes, yeah. Inside of the Burns Arena, there is a vinyl wrap inside of one of the, we call the upper level mezzanine cabinet signs. And up there, it does show the Washington City logo from the support.
I know that recently we had like a night that was dedicated strictly for you guys. We had a lot of council people and other people come out and get a shout out over the PA and the video board system, as well as you're able to hand out T-shirts and squish balls and candy and stuff with the Washington City logo and other things like that. So that obviously is another part of the partnership that's incorporated as well.
Council, any other questions for these gentlemen?
I don't have any for them, but I have some for the council.
Great. So we'll go ahead and
Can I before?
Please,
I'm just curious. You said that you invite children to games. How does the kids know about that, and how does that information, so they can say, if they want to come to one of the basketball games and meet with the players and talk with them and be influenced by them, how does that information get to the parents of the children so they can know about it?
That's a wonderful question. And right now we actually have our Brooks Buddies Kids Club. And so with the Brooks Buddies Kids Club, we have over 200 different participants. And there's a newsletter that goes out to the parents that have signed their children up. And then that'll allow them for knowledge of the different events and different things. And so we've been working with, I'm trying to remember his specific title, but Director Bergeson he's over the Washington County School District Superintendent. Thank you. So we've been working with him closely and trying to be able to help set out flyers and different things for other children to be aware of the different events that are held on campus.
That'll be helpful, because I know through our kids' schools, they can send out emails, to all their parents, and I frequently will get emails of flyers, and so that's a good way to be able to get the information out.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Coates.
Yeah, so, and it's not directed toward you guys. It's just a question for the council, and how we want to establish the RAP tax. So RAP tax is Recreation, Arts, and Parks. And when we're talking about cyberbullying, which I think is a huge issue, and I'm glad you're taking it on, is this the right place? Should we be funding it out of our general fund, not a RAP tax, is my question for the council. It just seems like we're starting to stretch what we're allowing, and I just feel like maybe this isn't more of what RAP tax is for, is my only question. I know we did it in the past. When I read this, I'm like, is this for the RAP tax, or should we be supporting it a different way? Because I want to support it. I just am wondering, and from us, is this the right application we support it for?
That's a great question, Councilman. I guess when we first started this, we felt like because the ball players that would come over and they'd bring programs, and it was a very interactive, recreational type interaction, that I think that's how it was originally thought of. But I think that's a good point, and I think we can have that discussion. Yeah. But I'm with you. I want to support our university and the athletics as well. But I think that's a good discussion that maybe we can have.
Yeah, it's just something I think we need to think about as we I just don't want, and I just want some random thing that has nothing to do with Arts, Parks, and Rec come in and be like, well, you gave it to UTU based on this, and it's something. I just want us to be careful what we do to make sure that we're doing it properly. And I think we're in favor. I mean, I don't know. I'm in favor of moving forward because I think this is important. I just don't know if the RAP tax is the right place to do it, or if to do it out of a different fund in the city. So
Mr. Redwood, could you weigh in on that?
I appreciate that. Yeah, I've encouraged them to come forward this way because we didn't have it budgeted in our general fund, but I absolutely look for your instruction on how you'd like us to do it in the future. If it's not a lot of money, it's a really good partnership for the city. And so this is a way to do that, but we certainly can do it any way the council would like to in the future.
So do you feel like this is appropriate use of RAP?
It is, and And wrap tax is pretty flexible as long as the board chooses to use it that way and it does fit the parameters. But I understand what you're saying. If we'd like to tighten that up a little bit, then as we start talking budget for next year, I'd be happy to look at funding it a different way if you prefer. But I would recommend that we fund it this way this time, or we do a budget opening. 'Cause
Do we have a planned budget opening for any other reasons?
we'll do one in February, certainly. We do one every quarter either way, so
Okay,
we
just,
can do that. And I'm happy to do that. I've encouraged Cameron to come this way. So
and I can see why we've done it in the past, and that's why, I mean, I remember we did it, but I just, reading through this specific wording of what it was gonna be used for, I just think we're getting on that boundary of, is it wrap tax eligible in my mind? Now, maybe the rest of you think it's fine. I just want to make sure we're doing it right so that we don't have something later that comes back and says, well, you gave it to them. Why aren't you giving it to me?
if we do it that way, though, I still want Cameron to come in every year and have to stand up here and talk to us because we like having him come in. So
I know, but
there is that benefit.
Then we have to get a taller microphone, and it's
I
just a
know.
problem. And it's out of our budget, so.
I think next year I might be a little shorter. I'm growing with age, so.
Well done, council. Any other questions? I appreciate you bringing that forward, Councilman Coates. I think it's a good discussion item for us to have. And, you know, like what's been said, we appreciate our relationship with the university. We understand that's a key component for our youth and our kids to be able to be educated here locally, and we appreciate that. So we will look forward to addressing this in our next meeting. Was there any other
I
comments?
just want to quickly comment because I can see where you're coming from. But I also feel like where they're including, they're coming to basketball games and meeting with the players, but then they also have a good message with the kids. And I just feel like the sports is just a great way for kids to learn hard work and just so many good principles. And so where they're having them come to games, but then they're also having a good messaging with the bowling. I just feel like it's just, they can kind of work hand in hand while also benefiting our community, members and residents, but then also tying in the sports. Different
I
games,
see where
too.
you're coming from on that. I just wanted to bring it up just because of the way the application read, it read more toward the cyberbullying versus the sports. And I see that as a problem that we need to work on. But what are these funds? Are they going towards the sports and that? Or are they going toward cyberbullying or both? I don't know. And I'm just saying it's just on that line for me. But I want to support the program one way or another. I just wondering how we do it. And it's more of just not your application, because I think it's kind of there on that line of being, it's, at least a portion of it is on the sports. But what if there's another applicant that is 100% on, that's not a sports thing, and then they say, well, you applied it for here. That's all I'm trying to bring up. But I do see where you're coming from. So
And we appreciate that. Let's continue that conversation. Gentlemen, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I did forget one thing, kind of talking about the sports aspect. We did actually have a kids game that was in attendance, and we had over 1,500 students that supported our women's basketball team. It was absolutely one of the loudest games we've ever had, which was absolutely phenomenal. And I'm happy to share pictures of that game if you would like, but I just wanted to kind of mention that as well, and I'll stop talking.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. Our next applicant is Tuacahn Center for the Arts. I believe Kevin Smith is the name listed here, and they're asking for $20,000 for microphones and wireless microphone elements replacement.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak and for what you've given to us in the past. You guys have been great partners in the past. I want to first say Washington City is one of our biggest patronage cities in Utah. We have over 11,500 ticket buyers right here in Washington City. Spring Hill's a hotel that does a lot of packages. So we get a lot of people who come from the area, from here, from your own residents, and also from out of town who come through here. And it's estimated that the economic impact of Tuacahn is over $110 million every year to the economy of Southern Utah. And that's based on 350,000 patrons who come to see concerts, shows, and events. They stay in hotels, VRBOs, Airbnbs, and they also, of course, spend money in restaurants and hotels, et cetera. So that economic impact, we hope, is making a difference. But more importantly, it's the difference that it makes to our community in terms of having a real nice professional place to see things that are a little less expensive than New York, Broadway, or LA, or Chicago, but the same caliber of talent, and something you could say is as good or better than anything you'd see anywhere in the country. But one of the things that helps us to be that way in an outdoor setting is we have to have good microphones. And you're probably asking, why would we come to Washington City? We're also going to Ivans to ask for the same thing. Why would we come for microphone elements in particular? Well, they're 7 years old. And to put it into perspective, you all know how often Apple comes out with a new phone. Imagine if you had a 7-year-old phone that you're using right now, how effective would it be? Microphones, you can almost double that. If you've got 7-year-old microphones, it means you're way behind in the technology. And our biggest thing is in Tarzan this next year, we're going to be doing major water effects. We're bringing back the flood. Some of you have maybe seen how we rush water across the stage. And our microphones are not waterproof. We actually cover them with plastic coverings to protect them. But even an actor who may sweat because it's a large component, it's older technology, it can sweat out and it can short out. So we've been nursing these microphones as best we can for all these years, and it's time now that we need to replace them. And they're very expensive. They're about $4,000 a microphone, if you can imagine. So we're going to be spending over the next 3 years almost $90,000 a year until we replace all of our microphones. And so this is the first year. If we don't replace them this year, we're going to have to rent them because we can't put on another show with these older microphones. It just won't function. Now, the good news is we can reuse some of the ones we have for indoor theater because we can control the element. It's a much closer environment. And so we're seeking funds to help us because if you ever go to a show anywhere, you can't hide a mistake with sound. You can maybe not know if a light came on at the right time. You can maybe not know if other elements worked or didn't work. Might even not notice a costume snafu. But if you can't hear the person or it sounds off or sounds bad, you really notice that. So for us, it's really important that it sounds good. And we want to make sure that we have the microphones that we need, that when you come to Tuacahn, you hear that same quality that you expect every time you come.
Great. Council, any questions for Mr. Smith?
I've got one question, just looking through your balance sheet or whatever we call these.
Yes.
It says almost $8 million in government grants. That where do those come from? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's over many years. But yes, much of that was RAP tax funding.
Okay.
So for example, some of you may have heard of the Shuttered Venue Grant. So when we had to close our season in 2020, we lost over $6.5 million as a result of that. The Shuttered Venue Grant that came from the federal government covered about 4.4 million of that. And so that's part of that. And then there's funding that we get from the state for capital projects. We built a new box office. We've gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars from the state in recent years, also from the COVID-19.
Because this is for fiscal year 2021, so I was just curious where. So a lot of that was COVID related.
Yeah, and some of it, even though it was hitting in 2021, it was application from 2020. But also in there is we got, and I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's loans that you get from the government for covering. They gave business loans that allowed them to be forgiven because of COVID.
Right.
We got probably $1.5 million there, and we also got money from the county as well.
Okay, thank you.
Council, any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
And our last applicant is Washington City Leisure Services, Mr. Barry Blake. They're asking for $250,000 for the parking lot, bathroom, storehouse, shop, and grounds at the Covington home.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and council members, Mr. Red. We're excited to be in front of you today. It's been a long time coming. We received this property on a donation to the north of the Covington home. I don't know how long ago. It's been a couple of years probably anyway, and from Mr. Roy Nyson. Thankful for that. And we've lost Roy since then. A good man, but we're excited to finally come before you and be ready to develop this piece of property and put a parking lot in and expand the use and be able to have parking up there for when we have events that take place. There's the amount of money broken down into different categories. Parking lot, $150,000. Bathroom, $50,000. The shed renovation, which is the shed that's in the back. You can see some renderings that have kind of been that we've had done on that would show kind of how that would look. So it'd look a little bit better with the Covington home there and the historical look of it. We wanted to maybe change that a little bit. And then the relocation of the Bishop Storehouse, which is being donated to us, and it's down off the Washington Dam Road, close to Country Way. There's a farm there that it's been sitting there since around 1950, and it was just moved at that time from right below I think 190 North, right by the Covington home is where that was. Those are all homes there now, but we'd like to bring that back close to where that first Bishop Storehouse would be with the Covington home. So any questions?
Got enough money here, Barry?
We've looked at everything. We have a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of room in the parking. Parking spaces have been going between 2,500 and 3,000 a space. We do have some landscaping in there and some drip, but yeah, we put everything together. We feel that there's enough there to do that.
I'm just concerned there's not enough based on today's dollars. And so,
yeah, things have gone up. We could put a contingency on there. We could add some on contingency. Also, just so you're aware, as we came for RAP tax in, I believe it was June when we were awarded the RAP tax for the ball diamond lights. Those lights are in. We're getting all the billing back. We're gonna have some substantial money left over for that. We went on some different prices and different bidding, different company, and so we've saved quite a bit of money for that. We will bring that, turn that back in. But if maybe we do run over, we could maybe use some of that money that we use on the ball diamonds, and there's extra for that if the council would allow that. If that happens, and would come back and ask for that.
Barry, or Mayor Pro Tem, can I ask a question?
Absolutely, sir. You bet.
Just out of curiosity, how do we move the Bishop Storehouse? Is that a piece by piece thing, or
no?
They get under it and lift
so
it?
I actually have a gentleman that's going to meet with me down there on Friday. I won't tell you the company, but it's a big company. They've got the low boys, the big treaders that they can put that on. If you look at it, I took pictures. It's sitting up. It's on cement blocks on the corners, and so it's been off the ground, and you can actually look underneath it.
Get under it.
Yeah, so that's what they think that they could do. They'd bring a big piece of equipment with some forks and lift that. We don't want to put with a crane or anything and try to lift it. We don't want to pull it apart. So that's what they think would be the best. They're going to come look at it. They would just pick that up, put it on a low boy, transport it, pick it up. We'd have a concrete foundation there that we just lay it down on, and that's where it'd be.
Nice, and then restore it a little bit and kind of get it up to snuff.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's old. I mean, you can look at it. We'll have to find some old boards someplace that would match that. But I don't know what it would take to restore it. It's just a shed, and it was a storage shed that they had, and they stored things in there for distribution to folks. So not a whole lot. I don't think that needs to be done. It would just be nice to have it back where it came from.
Nice, thank you.
So Barry, does the restoration of the storehouse, is that included in this cost too? If there were costs to restore it, is that included in that 10,000?
It's not. I don't know what I don't like I said, I don't think there's much restoring to do. We'd have to just find some old barnwood and there's really not a whole lot. Yeah. The inside, there's some, it's kind of neat how they built it. They build it where it's notched, and so they've got the beams up above, and you can kind of move the walls and, you know, move it so you got bigger areas and smaller areas. But in between, they've, you know, used it for other things. So they've come in with some newer wood, some little, you know, stuff that they've made their own stuff. So we'd pull that out and just kind of open it up. But that's not a cost either. That would just be something we'd look at doing. So there's really not, you know, it really is pretty much what it is.
I really like the design and everything. I did have a meeting with the Washington City Historic Preservation Commission, and many of them had expressed concern with having the Bishop Storehouse over here, and they would rather have it downtown next to the museum, where it's more in a central location where it could be more accessible to the public, that they could go from the museum and then go to the tithing house. And since we want to make downtown a historical, you know, location, that their idea and their idea was wanting to have it here closer to, you know, the museum and the city hall. And I know I just wanted to share that was the consensus among our meeting today with the commission.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So we'd have to identify a location, see how that would work. But any other questions for Mr. Blake?
Yeah, I just got one, Barry. Is there, I don't know if there is, but is there an option to phase the parking lot?
I think the parking lot's probably, the parking lot and the bathroom are probably the most important things.
Well,
You know,
the only reason why I bring it up is just because costs are up there right now. And so what I'm just thinking is if we had to phase it to keep within our budget if it ends up being the 250, we solidify on that. I think we just need to look at that option to phase maybe portions of pavement or those items, or maybe the shed doesn't get remodeled.
And that's
right
it. That's
away.
why I broke that down. If you wanted to take out the shed, you know, and say we're not going to put any money toward the shed, and we like it the way it is, and we can fix it up later, we can come back for that. That would be my first suggestion of something we could.
And that's a good one, because that's
adjust.
$40,000 right
Yeah.
there. So
And it's not just for the, you know, for the roof. We want to put some, you know, some siding, some kind of a fascia on there to make it look good for that, you know, for the area it's at, for that historic area. So that's the whole idea before that, you know, in that. So if there's something I think would be, you know, you could pull out, I would say that would be the first thing.
thanks, Barry.
That's what I'd say, is just move forward with it. And if you run out of money, hold off on the shed.
Yeah, there's things that we could certainly adjust and do, and that's why I gave you those breakdowns. Yeah.
Council, anyone else? Councilwoman, any questions?
Well, it would be nice to have a little feedback about what your thoughts are. Do you guys prefer over here in the look of this, or?
I'll tell you mine. I don't know if I have one, because I don't have a historical, like, I mean, I think it works here good, but I don't know what other areas are we proposing. So I would say let's just talk about it.
So my only comment on that is this is where it came from. This is, I mean, there was the Bishop Storehouse for Robert Covington. This is the Covington home. That's where it was at. And so,
It was on that corner, or
it was on 190 North. So it was just like right across the street right there. Those are all homes there now, but that's where it was at. It was right by that house.
I can see that as maybe a conversation for a later date. I think that we need to consider what that commission wants, but we also need to consider what Leisure Services is recommending. So any other questions for Mr. Blake? Thank you, Barry. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So just as in a way of information, those of you that are here for RAP, we will actually be voting on these in our regular meeting. So if you want to stay and listen to this riveting conversations we're having, you're welcome to, but we will be in our regular meeting that will begin at 6 o'clock, just in case you might want to leave. Thank you. Okay, our next agenda item is we have a moderate income housing strategies. This will be presented by City Planner, Eldon Gibb.
Let me just clarify, city planner, Eldon Gibb. I didn't like the sound of that.
I corrected myself.
Thank you.
Scared him.
On August 24th, 2022, 3 strategies were approved and implemented into the general plan and submitted to the state. The state has since reached out inquiring about further changes needing to be made, such as specific benchmarks that can be measured. Staff has discussed options, incorporated changes, and worked with the state to ensure that this proposal satisfies state requirements. If approved, staff will be submitting this updated plan to the state to stay in compliance with their requirements. Before we dig into this, I just want to note this is separate from the Housing Action Coalition. It has nothing to do with that body, and is strictly to satisfy state requirements that we report on a yearly
And that's what
basis.
Mr. Hess reported on just recently,
Correct.
not to be confused with this.
Correct. So I can just share my screen here. Looks like it's loading. I guess you guys could follow along in your packets as well.
Sure.
Maybe I'll just stop mirroring and read through this here. So the bottom exhibit is the strategies that the state allowed us to choose from, A through X. We sat down and looked through all of those strategies and thought that strategy E, F, and H were the direction that we were moving and going to be able to most easily satisfy the state. So strategy 1 corresponds with that strategy E, which states we're going to create or allow for and reduce regulations related to internal or detached accessory dwelling units in residential zones. Thad has done some pre-work on this. We've recently made those changes. We'd like to revisit parking and include any best practices to help fine-tune that. And then also going to incorporate a way to track internal and external dwelling units, which is another state requirement that we need to track those in the upcoming years. Any questions on strategy 1? Strategy 2, which corresponds to letter F, states zone or rezone for higher density or moderate income residential development in commercial or mixed use zones near major transit, investments, corridors, commercial centers, or employment centers. And this one kind of focused on Main Street with us tying in, or UDOT tying into the I-15 corridor, that over time that Main Street could change, and we'd like to take that into consideration with the higher densities there. Any questions on strategy 2? Strategy 3 corresponds with letter H, which states amend land use regulations to eliminate or reduce parking requirements for residential development where a resident is less likely to rely on the resident's own vehicle, such as residential development near major transit, investment corridors, or senior living facilities. And I've underlined senior living facilities, as that would be the area that we would be looking towards to look at the parking requirements for those areas and hopefully reduce those requirements for the senior living facilities, which would then, in theory, reduce costs to those residents.
So we just upped our parking based on the problems we've had in other areas. I understand we're doing specifically senior living. Are we only going to focus on senior living?
For this state requirement, yes. Yeah, we'll sit down, look up best practices, and see if we can fine tune or propose a fine tune proposal to reduce parking in senior living facilities.
Okay, thanks, Eldon.
So Eldon, this is really similar to what we put together a few months ago, but many cities had their plans returned because the state wanted to see these implementation plans with timelines and measures of success. So Eldon's done a lot of work to take what we had before and now fit it into a form that our state overseers are willing to accept. Say that in the nicest possible terms. But I appreciate the work Eldon's done on this and Drew and their team. But at this point, we're hoping to satisfy, I'm not even sure what to say, satisfy their demands.
So
For
just
the proper wording.
some further context. What I understand, this originated in 2019 with SB 34. And then in later legislative session 2022, HB 462 that we talked about last year at length, it made changes to some of that criteria and mandated timelines and different things that we are in compliance with now. And anyway, any questions, Eldon?
In your discussion with the state, do they feel like this will meet their requirements? They feel like we've gone,
I do, yeah, I submitted this
Adequate.
exact proposal. We fine-tuned a few things, but yeah, this will satisfy.
So you guys won't go out and try to seek those who are doing internal, external, but you just will keep track of the building permits that you have issued.
Correct, those submitted. We've met with building and created a process that we can pull numbers to see how many internal and external permits we've issued and then submit those to the state.
Okay, any other questions? Okay,
Thank you, council.
thank you, Eldon. This will be agenda item 7G in our regular meeting, where we will be taking action on that item. Agenda item number 4 is traffic, street safety. What this agenda item about, just to kind of give some background, they're going to be presenting some options that we're going to look at and vote at a later council meeting after it's worked into the budget. And this conversation was started by a great question by Councilman Henderson, who had questions about this, and it sparked a really good conversation. So what we're looking at tonight is just some proposals, and then we can talk about priorities and how we want to proceed. So we're going to have Public Works Assistant Director Andy Stevens, is that correct? Or is it Mr. Mogul? Okay. City Engineer Paul Mogul, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, council. And I'd like to, so I'm Paul Mogul, City Engineer. I'd like to acknowledge Andy Stevens, as well as the Assistant Public Works Director, and helping out with this. Give me just a sec here. Let me try to get connected. So there's a few projects that we put together with this, and just trying to kind of maintain some consistency around some spots, and then also trying to help with some of the traffic and safety. So this first one here, widen Red Hills Parkway to 5 lanes. So as you're traveling, so at that intersection, as you go to the east, it's Buena Vista. As you go to the west, it's Red Hills Parkway. So we'll call it Buena Vista because we're Washington, right? So widen Buena Vista to 5 lanes. So as you come out of St. George City, it's 5 lanes, and then we've all traveled that. We know it necks down to 3 lanes, and then until you get to the intersection, then it widens out. And the idea behind this is to add additional asphalt so that we can maintain those 5 lanes through there. Along the St. George side, they have curb and gutter on that, on the freeway side, the I-15 side of the road. The idea would be to add some curb and gutter along there, and then everything on the north side we would just tie into, we'd just keep existing. All we're gonna do is add additional asphalt to the I-15 side of the road. It'd be roughly about 10 feet of asphalt, and that allows you to, that gives you a 65-foot wide road, which allows you to have 5 lanes that you can maintain all the way through there and just kind of maintain that consistency all through there. There will be just to the west of Ahern, there's a low spot in the road. So there need to be some drainage that would need to be accounted for if we're going to add curb and gutter on that freeway side of the road. There's some, again, this was pretty just high level. We didn't get into the weeds too much with it. We just kind of high leveled look at some of the things that would need to take place. So that was one of the spots that we noticed that some drainage would need to take place. There may be some others along there as well, but for that one, that's kind of the general scope of what would take place with that one. Let me go through these. And
Oh, is that, so on this part of the project, we wouldn't have to acquire any land or anything, because that's all, we have that in place.
Yep, you're correct. Yeah, there'd be no right of way, because going to on the north side, we would keep it as is. Going to the south side, we own to that fence line, and this wouldn't impede into that fence line, that UDOT fence line. So we should be fine there.
So the only negative I see with this is right now, when you have to go from 4 lanes to 3, it does add some traffic calming. So making it 5 lanes all the way will just let people motor right on through. So there's always trade-off, and the trade-off is people will go a lot quicker both directions, but we'll get them through quicker. I think it's important to mention it. There are other places that we actually constrict the traffic for that reason, so that we can slow them down. But
The traffic will slow it down itself right there. We'll just back up. We'll just... I think the reason why I like it is because you're going from 5 lanes down to 3 lanes, and then you're back to almost 5 lanes at the intersection. It just seems like it necks down for a minute. So I do know what you're saying, but so on this one, I think any stacking we can get helps.
I just think it's worth mentioning. That's all. I'm a fan of traffic calming. So
I'm a fan of calm drivers. So.
Awesome. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Come on, pull up for me. Okay, so this one kind of has 2 components to it. So we're talking about that same intersection as you travel southbound on Green Spring. This would add an additional right turn pocket. It would add a right turn pocket for those traveling southbound, so they can make that right hand turn onto Buena Vista. And then, yeah, we'd have to move the curb and gutter and the sidewalk. This one kind of has, Councilman Henderson mentioned right away on the other project. This one, we would have to acquire right away for this one. There's also some utilities on that corner. We got that traffic signal mast arm that would most likely have to move. There's also a fire hydrant, a telephone pedestal. There's a couple utilities there. So we'd have to look at relocating, moving some of those. I think there's also a drainage inlet at that corner too, so we'd have to adjust that. So there would be a little bit of a drainage factor going into that. That's the one component. The other component is to remove that island there. That's the only, that's in the median. That along Green Spring, that's the only location that has a landscape in the median. Also, it provides a sight distance hazard for that new Maverick as you're, I don't know if this will do anything, but for that new Maverick as you're coming here and you want to, as you're coming out of the Maverick, it provides a sight distance. Generally, you want anything 3.5 feet or lower. Anything 3.5 feet or higher provides a sight distance problem. And with that landscape median, sometimes we love landscape medians, but also a lot of times they provide a sight distance problem. This is one of those locations where it provides a sight distance problem. For both those coming out of that Chevron and also out of that future Maverick, it provides a sight distance problem. And so one of the other component would be to remove that island and then add asphalt in that median.
So would that be a middle turn lane?
Well, you do have that, yeah. So it would be, I call it a suicide lane. It would kind of be a suicide lane. So you could turn left in there into the Maverick. You could use that to turn left into the Maverick, or you can use it for additional queuing or stacking for your left turn onto Buena Vista.
So that's not a great way to sell your project, calling it a suicide lane.
Yeah, I probably
Just
shouldn't use
if
that.
you have any costs that you've run, any approximate costs on these,
I
you could
do-
share those as well as you present.
Okay, let me go to the next one, and then I got some costs that I could pull up as well. Okay, and so then this last one was is extending Main Street and having it connect over to Foothill Drive. Kind of has that little elbow there that connects over to Foothill Drive. So with the interchange that will be coming in, that connects to Main Street, Main Street's gonna see a little bit more traffic on it. So the idea behind this one is that it would also help alleviate some of the traffic that once you get to take Fields Road up to Telegraph or 300 East Telegraph, there's a lot of, as you're heading northbound, there's a lot of left turn movements that go on to Telegraph. And so and in the future, I think we'll probably see a lot of left turn movements to get onto Telegraph and a lot of right turn movements to get on Main Street. And so then this also provides another access onto Main Street. They could connect here and then just go straight on through up to Main Street. This is in our master plan to have this, and then it would eventually go over to the west and connect over into St. George. And so anyway, there is, we got that Mill Creek wash right there. There is a floodplain that's associated with this. This kind of has that elbow to stay out of that floodplain. And then also eventually we'll probably need to look at adding a signal there at Fields Road and Foothill Drive as well. So the city has right away that section from 400 south to 500 south. The city owns right away there, so we'd have to purchase right away from 500 south over to Foothill Drive. And the idea here is to Foothill Drive, let me look here. Foothill Drive is classified as a residential collector, so it's a 60-foot right-of-way with 42 feet of asphalt. That new section of Main Street that I drew in is the same thing. It's 60 foot of right-of-way and 42 feet of asphalt, so it would coincide with what Foothill Drive is. Anyway.
Will that have curb, gutter, and sidewalk on both sides, or are you leaving some of it for adjoining property owners to finish?
The way I drew it up, I put curb and gutter and sidewalk on both sides, but yeah, we could also explore that avenue as well to save on costs. Any questions on either any of those three figures? Then I could pull up a cost estimate.
Go to the cost estimates.
Let's go to the Buena Vista cost estimate. And again, this is pretty high level, so there's some contingency, there's just some things, but the idea on that is the cost would be somewhere around $400,000. We would add 10 feet of asphalt there. For the striping, because we'd have to go back through and either sandblast or remove that existing striping that's there. So we factored in slurry sealing it, add a slurry seal over that, and then you can go back through and paint over it. And that would, your slurry sealed cost versus removing paint. Yep.
So just so you're aware that Buena Vista will be on, so we track with our work order system, our slurries, and we try to do everything on a 5-year cycle. We're about at a 7. So in 2024, all of Buena Vista will be in that 5 years since the last time. So that slurry could just be, we could add the asphalt in, do the curb and gutter, and then that slurry would just be part of the maintenance. And we just slurry the whole thing, clean up the striping at that time.
Can I ask a question on that? So going, coming from Ahern towards the intersection, right now, it bottlenecks down. And then as you're at the intersection, right now there's one lane forward to Buena Vista Boulevard going east, and then the other lane's a turn lane. If we widened it, would we have 2 straightforward lanes plus a turn lane to the right, or?
Let's pull up a map here.
Because if so, that'd be very helpful.
So there is, I don't know where we are here. Tulsa, awesome. Let's get to where we need to be. There's a little section that's wide. Let me just make sure I'm following exactly where you're talking about, Councilman. Are you talking about this turn pocket right in there? No. Oh, at Green Spring. Sorry. Wow. Man.
So Paul, on your exhibit, it showed 2 straight lanes and a right lane and a left lane at the intersection, and those 4 lanes technically go back past by the auto dealership there. That's what he was asking.
Okay. Yep.
So I think really the hope for the discussion today is, are we on the right track? Is this something that you'd like to see us work towards the budget? Scrap some of them, look at some of them?
So
that's just a
if
little
you
bit
want
of feedback.
My feedback is I think Buena Vista makes sense. We should look at that. It's fairly inexpensive moving forward. As far as the Green Springs, like the median stuff, it kind of seems like it's the same project, besides we have to acquire right away. I think I'd ask, is removing the median helpful enough? I don't know. I don't know the concerns there, right? Like what does the traffic study say? Do we need more stacking on the left, and that's why we're removing the median? I mean, I get what you're saying on the site distance. But from what I've seen, it sounds like we need to cut the bushes down if that's the problem, over ripping it out. I would be more favorable to do it if it makes sense for stacking of lefts.
So for me, just my perspective, I use that intersection multiple times a day because that's where I live up there. And I think the widening of the road is going to be helpful, very helpful. But that median's been a problem for 20 years.
Yeah, so
it needs to be
these lanes
gone.
right here are not even 11 feet.
It's bad.
Yeah, we looked into it one time. We took the striping out and just made that 1 lane because it's not really even wide enough for 2 lanes there, and people didn't like it, so we striped it back to 4. But it's really tight. Like you wouldn't want to pass somebody right there.
So
we could take the median out, clean up that striping, give them the 12-foot lanes through there, and make that better. Because it is kind of it's tight.
It's a weird bump.
It's weird.
It always kicks you one way.
Right.
Like it was intended to be widened in the future, and we just have never widened it. Like even with Maverick, we should have.
So I would say, at least just from my perspective, priority-wise on these, I would say the Green Springs would be the widening of the road and getting rid of that median. And then that right-hand turn lane would be extremely helpful. And then the Main Street one, that was not really on my radar. You know, my concern, immediate concern, especially with the Maverick going in there and the hotel and the other things, would be to clean up this intersection as quickly as we can. So.
I would agree with you, Councilman Henderson. I think Main Street, I kind of am like, well, isn't the developer coming down that road shortly? And I know we'll need to contribute because he shouldn't have to build the entire.
So nobody asked me about that one. I asked Paul and Andy to look at it because of just what Paul explained. I just want us to start getting it in our mind. I don't think it's something that has to happen in the immediate future, but I think we need to be watching when that Main Street exit comes on and that 300 East and Telegraph is a problematic intersection already. We actually own some property where we could probably put in a right-hand turn lane, another one up at the top of Telegraph and 300. But I think we need to start thinking about that traffic flow down into the fields because it's already a pretty congested intersection. So it's not one that I think has to happen right now, but I wanted to start getting you thinking about it.
I'm glad you're thinking about it. I think it's smart too. I mean, it's tough because now we're putting the interchange down residential and now we're going to affect the south half as well by putting this road in. And if you looked at Foothills Drive, there's houses on that road, faces that road as well. Like,
yeah. And even Main Street, if we do that, we may want to make it a larger project. We have a couple of blocks of curb and gutter. It's a pretty wide road all the way down, but it would need some work to get traffic down there if we intend to do this as well. So it might be a bigger project.
Well, and kind of one of the things I wanted to mention, like Thad mentioned, maybe phasing. I'm so tired of phasing that. Like, if we're going to build a road, let's build a road full width. I'm tired of piecing things together on these type of roads.
One thing we've talked about doing that we haven't done in the past is we could build full width. We could track that cost, because what happens is as soon as we build it, that property becomes a lot more interesting for development and it happens. And so what you're saying is instead of building narrow and then immediately we're adding parts, we could look at something, and Blake and I have had this discussion at tracking the cost. And if it develops within a certain amount of years, then we attach those costs to a project. If it doesn't, then we've done it. But
it's just like an assessment of the property. It's an assessment of we're going to build this, and then, like you said, it's a grandfathering. They do it with like gas lines and water lines all the time.
Pioneering agreement.
That's the word, pioneering agreement. So within 10 years, if someone else ties on, they give you your reimbursement from them. And I think it makes sense for us to start doing that and not building. We should build full width roads.
In places where we have to acquire right of way, it might be some negotiation where the right of way,
yeah, that's different.
Is acquired for the cost of building the road, and then they get the benefit, something like that. But that's more of a long-term thing.
And it gives us control of where we set the access for our access management, because a lot of times I'm always going to say Washington Fields Road, if we would have set those accesses, that's where people would have had their accesses, is where we set them. And that would be based on property ownership and best access management. And then we'd be done and we wouldn't be back piecing it together all the way down.
So I'll just weigh in here. My priorities are Red Hills Parkway and the Green Springs turn pocket and removing the median as well. I think what's interesting, all three of these contingencies that we're talking about are all based on the traffic from exit 10, trying to alleviate that. And as city leaders, that's a battle that we fight every day, trying to alleviate that. We understand that it's inconvenient and takes time to get through, but growing cities sometimes have to react to the growth. So we have about 5 minutes till our hard stop. So any other discussion, Councilman? Appreciate your presentation, and I do really like the idea myself that you bring these forward for discussion items, because that helps us to get on our radar of even what that map will look like for the Main Street extension and how that will tie in. It's great information.
Thank you.
All right. Council, any other discussion before we adjourn? Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, please.
I'll second that.
A motion by Henderson, second by Councilman Martinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We're adjourned till 6 p.m. we do. We only have about 80,000
Things to catch up on.
hours to get caught up on.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got a great project coming to the city, so they're excited. I don't see any quality issues there. So. That's you. Good to see you. We'll get together. Let's go lunch next week. You got time? Yes. Okay.
I was really worried.
Oh, well, we don't normally, the fact that you call it a workshop scares us.
We'll just take your opinion. Staff can recommend approval. Whatever staff says. We'll go with staff.
Let me see. I'd like to welcome, oh, just one second. Thank you. I'd like to welcome you to our regular council meeting for Washington City this January 25th. My name is Kurt Ivey. I'm serving as Mayor Pro Tem tonight. Our good mayor is traveling and out of town. I want to start off with a notice. This public notice is hereby given that the Washington City Council will hold a public electronic regular meeting on Wednesday, January 25th, 2023 at 6 p.m. hosted at the Washington City office located 111 North, 100 East in Washington. And for future reference, or for those at home, the meetings also are broadcast on our website at washingtoncity.org/meetings. As I said, Mayor Staley is traveling today and will not be here for our meeting. And there is no need for a closed session. So tonight we have with us Brother Stephen King that will offer the invocation. He's with the Interfaith Council, representing the Interfaith Council and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
We do have one quick announcement for everyone in the room. The Interfaith Council is sponsoring on February 25th at 7 p.m. Our Interfaith Harmony Days. There used to be a National Prayer Day. That's been eliminated. Now this comes from the United Nations, so this is kind of worldwide. There'll be 12 different religions represented at Cousy Hall, which is behind the St. George Catholic Church. And everyone's invited to come, so we welcome all who would like to be there to be participating. There'll be lots of refreshments. That's the main thing. Let me pray for us. Our dear Father in heaven, how grateful we are to be in this free land, especially in this part of this free land. We are grateful for mayors and council people who help and govern this part of thy vineyard. We pray, Father in heaven, that thou wilt bless the mayor as he travels, keep him safe, and that he may return safely and resume his post here in this important office here. Tonight, as we meet, we pray that thy Spirit will be in attendance, that what is decided and what is directed here will be in accordance with thy will, that this may remain a free and a prosperous country. We pray for health and strength for all who reside here, but most importantly, Father in heaven, we pray for the children. We pray that those who are youth and children who are growing up in this part of Utah will learn and incorporate in their lives values that are consistent with those things which we hope they will believe in. We are so grateful for every blessing which we receive, but most importantly, the blessing of being here and living here in this beautiful part of thy vineyard. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Brother King. I've asked a former Washington Elementary student of mine and a current Washington City Power employee, Jordan Jolly, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. If you'll please rise and remove your hats.
Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jordan. Okay, as I said, there is no need for a closed session tonight. Council, I'm looking for an approval of the agenda as outlined.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as outlined.
A second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Announcements, we have a few. It seems that our announcements list just keeps growing and growing. Our city is very involved, and it's good to have these activities to go to. First one is the What's Up Down South Economic Summit. It'll be held February 1st, starting at 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it will also include a local bus tour that will be providing updates from the different municipal leaders. Then the Washington City Half Marathon is February 4th, 9 a.m. You can register for that on the city's website. And then the Dixie Regional Transportation Expo is Tuesday, February 7th from 10 to 6 at the Dixie Convention Center. It'd be important for you to know that this is where all future roads and travel for the entire county is looked at and prioritized. It's a great place to be able to go and give input on what you feel is priorities there. Then Mr. Calvin Fox, our commander here at our Washington City American Legion, asked that we remind our residents and visitors, citizens, that every first Thursday at 6 p.m. in the old gym, they have American Legion held there, and they would love to have anyone that would like to come to that to join. Then kind of a special announcement, one that means a lot to us on the council and to our city. We like to recognize the power department for their dedicated work during a recent power outage. Our good councilman, Craig Coates, is our council liaison with the power department, and he is going to read an information about that event.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Washington City is great because its employees are truly public servants. On January 5th at about 3 p.m. on a wet and cold afternoon, a call came into Washington City Power Department alerting them of a power outage in Washington neighborhood. An unretracted dump truck bed had caught a power line and brought the power line and pole to the ground, causing a loss of power to a handful of homes. Under Rick Hansen direction, the power department employees Caden Levitt, Braden Piatis, and Jordan Jolly were quickly dispatched and were the first to arrive on scene. They quickly realized that this was an all-hands-on-deck exercise, and they called for more help. The second crew that responded was Mike Roos, Jake Bennett, and Wayne Whitwer, and Tyler Stocks. The crew braved pouring rain and cold temperatures and worked tirelessly to replace the broken pole and transformer to make sure that the affected residents had power restored as quickly as possible. Rachel manned the phones, taking incoming calls from concerned citizens and media. Thankfully, power was restored before the day's end. We would like to recognize and thank our city power department and its employees for their swift and determined action to fix the down line and restore power to the residents who rely on the power for their day-to-day activities. We are proud of our city employees and for their attitude of service. Those who keep our lights on often go unnoticed. We regularly take for granted the services they provide until we can't turn on a TV, charge our cell phones, or find our way through a dark room. We are proud to live in a city where problems are quickly solved by training individuals who roll up their sleeves and get to work. Washington City congratulates its power department and all the employees who work there. And I want to appreciate and thank them, because I know those are tough jobs, and I mean, it would be tough if we didn't have power, and we rely on you guys to be there, and I appreciate them getting on it and calling all hands on deck. So I think they deserve it. Yep.
Appreciate your service to that board as well, Councilman. Council, any other comments that you'd like to make?
Don't you want to make them say anything? I mean,
Well,
this is your chance to make our linemen come up and say something.
We're going to get them all up here, but we're just going to allow the council the first poke here. So I'm just going to follow up with that and say that Mayor Staley received a very nice letter from a resident that's here in the galley tonight, expressing her appreciation for this group as well. She observed firsthand the conditions and the level of professionalism that they showed that night. And it's funny to me, it seems like it's always raining or snowing when the worst things happen. But we would like to recognize the power department And some of those key people, if you'll come up and introduce yourselves, we'd like to be able to visit with you for a minute. And then we'll take an opportunity for a photo. I know we've got Mr. Roosh is here, and any other power department, please come up. Please. I know it's not comfortable. You'd rather be behind the scenes, but tonight you have to be in front, okay? You'll just tell us your name and anything you want to tell us.
Mike Roosh. I don't know if there's anything you don't know already. So
I'm Tyler Stocks, and we just do our best. We appreciate the support we've been given by you guys as well, and by our citizens.
Appreciate that.
Wayne Whitwer, I'm just glad to be here. Glad to help out.
Wayne, we're glad to have you here.
Jordan Jolly, same thing. I agree with everyone, and appreciate Anita and everything she said about us. So appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Well, we'd like to take this opportunity to get a picture, if that would be okay with the council, and kind of memorialize what we feel was great work. That'd be okay, council? Okay, that brings us to declarations of abstentions and conflicts. Council, is there anything to declare?
Yeah, item 5B, I'll be abstaining from both those items.
Thank you, Councilman. Any others? Okay. We also have another special event on our agenda for tonight. It's not often that we're able to replace long-term employees. Mr. Kerry Wilwright, our longtime city treasurer, is here for years. He retired reluctantly, but he retired to take on his next phase of life. And the city did a search, and we did interviews and narrowed the field and did final interviews. And our new city treasurer that we'd like to introduce tonight is Brittany McClellan. We were going to ask our city recorder to come up and give the oath of office. Then after, we'd like Brittany to come up and introduce her and her family members that are here, and my great neighbors that moved away that I'm not real happy about, but go ahead, Tara. Thank you. Make it official, Brittany, and then you can share some of your thoughts and what you see for our city going forward. No pressure.
No pressure at all. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. The last 2 weeks have been a whirlwind, just trying to learn and observe everything. I think the city's on a great path, and I hope to continue what Kerry built for us and learn what he did.
We appreciate that. Now, you've got some family here tonight. Would you like to invite them up to the front and then introduce them, please? Hey, you don't get off easy when you come to Washington City Council.
He's doing it because my in-laws are his neighbor, or former neighbor. So this lady right here is my mother-in-law. Her name's Nancy. My father-in-law, Dave. My son, Jacoby, and my husband, John.
It's great to have each of you here with us. Any of you like to share anything about Brittany or your family or anything that you'd want us to know? This is your chance. Yes.
We wish you all the luck in the world, and the same for all you guys.
We appreciate that. We appreciate that. She said that she wishes Brittany all the luck in the world and the council as well. So we appreciate that. Jordan, can we get a picture of this family group, and then the council's going to come down and join in one as well. Thank you. Okay, council.
You want the whole family with the council? Oh, you want the whole big picture.
This is your mother-in-law that taught you the crafting things.
Yes.
That's good.
One thing that's interesting about the treasurer's office, if you think about it, they're the only employee that can make money for the city. So we're looking forward to good returns there. So anyway, great to have family here tonight as well. Brittany, appreciate you bringing them. On number 5 on the consent agenda with council, with your approval, I'd like to break out AI and vote on that separately, and then vote on BII together, if that's okay with the council. Okay, consent agenda. Looking for a motion when you're ready. Yep.
Mayor Pro Tem, I will make a motion to approve item 5A, the approval of the minutes for 1/11/23.
Okay, motion by Councilman Coates.
Second.
Second by Councilman Martinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, that passes. And now let's go ahead and address consent agenda BI and BII.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we approve item 5B, I, and double I.
And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and I believe maybe what I better do is read those first, Councilman. I think that would probably be better, and then I'll ask for a motion on that, if that'd be okay. Thank you. So BI is a consideration to approve a request to change the name of Green Springs Planned Community Development to Solente, located north of Washington Parkway and Main Street. Mr. Segmiller, can we vote on these together, or do we need to have them separate? Either way. And then 5II or 5BII, consideration to approve a request to change the name of the preliminary plat for Green Springs Village 1, Phase 1 estate lots to Solente Village 1, Phase 1 estate lots. And this is the new development located north of Washington Parkway and Main Street. So now I think we're just looking for a motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we approve consent agenda item 5B. Should I read those, Thad?
Just BI and BII.
Okay, 5BI and double I.
Thank you. Motion by Councilman Henderson.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Casperson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And for the record, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm abstaining from those two.
Yes. Thank you, Councilman. That's noted. Thank you. Next item 6 on our agenda is award of bid. Consideration to award the bid for Dogtown Park Phase 2, to Grass Creek Construction in the amount of $873,118. Barry Blake is here to present that. And Barry, if you would please just share with the council and audience again that process of how those bids come in and
Yeah.
how they're opened and that stuff is a good refresher. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and council members and Mr. Red. We had a bid opening last Wednesday, the 18th, here in the council room. Those are sealed bids that came in. We had 4 companies that bid on that. The spread on the bid was from the low to the high was $60,000, which is pretty good numbers. That's pretty close for those companies. They were all good companies. The low bid that came in was Grass Creek Construction, who are the ones who are building our shop right now, our parks shop up at the yard. They're a great company to work with, and they've been wonderful. We've had great success with them, and so we would like to recommend that the bid be awarded to Grass Creek Construction in the amount of $873,118.
Barry, what was the engineer's estimate on it?
It was right around 700,000.
So are we short in our general fund to build
Yeah,
this?
so one of the changes, we have the money for it. It's out of impact fees. It's money that's there in that account. So the money is there for that with no problem. One of the differences is a change that we did before, and that's we moved from fence, 6-foot chain link fence, to block wall, which was quite an expensive change. And then asphalt is one of the things that was up on that, some cement work. So we looked at where the prices were, and they all match up to what was expected. So it was a good bid.
Thank you, Barry.
So just to put you on the spot, how long ago did you build phase 1 of Dogtown Park? And any remembrance of the cost of that? What, just to see how things have changed in the
I don't
last?
even want to tell you. Yeah, I do remember. So the phase 1, and it was built, I don't know how many.
It happened within Mayor Nelson's first term.
It was built when the economy went way down, when there was no, when it collapsed. So
It was a little tree farm.
was it 2008, somewhere around in there, right around that area is when we built that. And it was around 350,000. Mm-hmm.
So Barry, before we vote on this bid, could you just tell us a little bit about what this park entails, like the square footage? And for those of you that aren't aware, this is on River Road, or on Washington
Off
Fields
300.
Road. And about, if you just kind of share some background so the people at home will know what this bid is for.
So this park is one of our most popular parks, probably percentage-wise for the size. It's the most used park. It's not only for dogs, but dog owners. They're very social, and they're friends, and they not only love to bring their dogs there, but they love to visit with each other, and it's a great place for them. It's a very popular place. It's way overused. It just gets hammered because it's not big enough. And so it's been a couple years ago, we acquired the property there to the east of it, and made that purchase. And then we proceeded since then to get the plans all together and go to bid on that. It over doubles it. So that area in the future will be the large dog area. We'll just extend the parking lot where it's at to the east, and they'll just come out of that area to the east and to the south into those 2 separate areas for the large dogs. So the small dogs will stay where they're at and then move into where the large dogs used to be. And then the large dogs will just move there. So it'll be easiest to maintain and take care of, and to keep the grass up and the park nice, and then have the room to do it. It will be filled before it's even built.
And there's a bathroom facility already there.
Bathroom
and a nice
facility's
little,
already there,
this
and
little jungle gym or playground.
Yeah, and there's a little shade structure. This new area also has a little shade structure that's inside the fencing. Some dog fountains and people fountains together. some little misters to keep them cool. In the other area, we have a water feature. That I know some of those will miss that in that other area, but we do have some misters and things to keep the dogs cool and some little shade structures. So that's really about it. It's mostly grass and fencing and benches and amenities like that. So.
And it will allow us to be able to rest grass that needs some resting, and those dogs keep the grass just about worn off, right?
Yeah, and so when we design this, so one of the things we've done in both areas now, we'll have a divider fence that'll be open, so that the dogs can go in both areas on both sides, the small and the large. But if we have an area in one of those areas that is worn out, or we have problems with, then we can actually shut that fence in between. Still have them use, so the dogs can still go in there and use one area, but we can go in there and repair the other without shutting the park down, and without, we'll still accommodate those that need to use the park. So that'll be a big benefit of this, and it'll help us have a better park.
Appreciate that. Council, do you have any other questions you'd like to ask for Barry before we vote on the motion or on the award? Okay, we'll entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion, we award the bid to Grass Creek Country for $873,182.
Motion by Councilman Coates.
I'll second that.
Second by Councilman Martinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you. Any idea when that'll be completed?
So we'll award the bid. We just awarded the bid, so we'll get a pre-construction meeting. We have scheduled already to start this park in February 6th, I think it's when it is, and so it'll open in June.
Very nice.
Yeah. So
We'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
Look forward to it. Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 7 is ordinances. This is where we will vote on the RAP tax applications that were presented in our work meeting earlier. Council, please feel free to take your time, and if you have any further discussion that you'd like to bring up or any more conversation, please feel free. We're going to vote individually on each one of the applications. This first one is consideration to approve an ordinance distributing the recreation, arts, and parks tax to Encore Performing Arts, and their original ask was $45,000, but as was corrected, Councilman Coates noticed that there was a discrepancy. They've told us that the ask is actually $25,000. So any other discussion, council, or a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem, looking at these, we look at all these applications differently. One of the things I look at most is the benefit to Washington City and benefit to our residents. There's other places they can apply these funds in other parts of the areas. So that goes across the board to all of these RAP tax. I'm super excited that we can help out with these areas because that's what it's intended for, is to help the arts and help that. So I'm going to put out a number for this first one and then look for some discussion, as I'm thinking 15,000 to start, and then maybe in 6 months they can come back and reapply and just tell us an update and how they've used the funds that have been beneficial to Washington City residents moving forward. That's what I think we should start with on this application.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other discussion, council, on that?
Mayor Pro Tem, I really like the presentation from Encore, and I'm really I think it's fantastic to let the youth of the community explore different arts. And I'm a big fan of letting the kids do a lot of different things, sports, arts, whatever helps to keep them busy and helps to improve themselves as individuals. And so I think this group is doing a good service and a great thing. I agree with Councilman Coates. I think 15,000 is a good number. I think it's a little bit more in line with what some of the other cities did. So that's kind of where I'm at, 15.
Any other discussion? Okay, motion.
I did have a question though for Manager Red. I know you're doing a good job of keeping track of this. On something like this, where it's not like for a specific item, how do we keep track of that?
So we have a report that they fill out, even if it's for a general amount like this, but they will attach pictures and they will give you a report. I haven't been turning those in, but Shelley makes sure they get turned in and that they're complete. But we can do that if you'd like on the repeat requests.
Yeah, definitely. Going forward, I'd like to see what the money has been used for and how it's been beneficial to them, especially on the repeat, just so we make sure it goes to where it needs to go.
I think that's really good comment. It's really nice to see the things that are happening with that money as well. We send it out, but we get to see what it actually does in the community. I'll make sure that we get the reports to you.
And City Manager, it might be good just to send out a blank copy of what that application looks for, where the council can actually read how they are committing to spend that money the way it was intended and how they're held to that.
I can do that.
By performance. Thank you. Okay, council, anyone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve $15,000 for the Encore Performing Arts.
Okay, motion by Councilman Coates.
I'll second that motion.
Second by Councilman Martinson. This is a roll call vote. Let's start with you, Councilman Martinson.
Aye.
Councilman.
Aye.
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 I am aye as well. It passes. Congratulations. See, you were nervous for no reason. We're really nice here, aren't we?
And come back in 6 months and let us know how things are going. So
yeah, we'd appreciate an update. Thank you. 7B, this is a consideration to approve an ordinance distributing the recreational arts and parks tax to Red Rock Music Association. Their ask was for $2,500. Mr. Fox came up and presented their application. This was for their music budget, if you'll remember. Any discussion, council? And or a motion?
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, I'd just like to say I really like what Red Rock is doing. And I like the fact that most of what they do is in Washington, just kind of centralized here. I love the way that they work with our community band, the Washington City Band, and how they make themselves available with their sound system and all of those things for all of our events. And so I'd be inclined to, give them the full $2,500 that they're asking for.
Would you like to make a motion to that effect, Councilman?
You betcha. I'd like to move that we approve $2,500 for out of our RAP tax for the Red Rock Music Association.
Thank you, Councilman. Second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilman Martinson. We're roll call starting with Councilman Henderson.
Aye.
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 I'm aye as well.
I'll be an aye as well.
And apologize. Yeah, I'm managing a lot of stuff right here, so it's not that you're not just as important. I just Mayor Pro Tem Air.
Last on the list.
Okay, on ordinance 7C, this is a consideration to approve an ordinance distributing the Recreation Arts and Parks tax to Tuacahn Center for the Arts. If you will remember, Kevin Smith presented and he shared with us that they are in need of new microphones and wireless microphone elements to replace their aging microphones. The ask here is $20,000.
So council, when I look at these, we've supported Tuacahn in the past, and I look at the ask today, and I just don't think it's beneficial to Washington City and their residents. I'm not comfortable moving forward with this donation myself. I think I like Tuacahn, but I think it benefits Ivins and St. George, not Washington City. So I kind of think we should not recommend any dollars for this particular project. We have donated for certain projects, but for this project, I don't think it's beneficial for us as a Washington City. So with that, I'd make a motion that we.
Councilman, just 1 second, if you would please. Is there any other comments? Just make sure that everyone.
Got ahead of myself.
Any other comments? Okay, Councilman, go ahead. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we deny the request for $20,000 to the Tuacahn Center.
Okay, motion by Councilman Coates. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilwoman Casperson. This is going to be a roll call vote as well. Councilman Coates?
Aye.
Councilman Ivy, I am aye.
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 Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Then on ordinance 7D, which is consideration to approve an ordinance distributing the recreational arts and parks tax to Utah Tech Athletics. If you'll remember, we had Cameron Chatwin come and he shared some of the elements of what that partnership looks like with Utah Tech Athletics. Their ask is $5,250. Any discussion, council?
So I think we should support them, but I think next time we should look at it a different way, depending on what their plan is for submitting. Maybe some more detailed of what they're using the funds for. I just think we're pushing the limit of what I think RAP tax should be used for. So I want to keep supporting them, and we have in the past, but I'd request that staff look at what they're spending on next year and maybe determining if it's RAP tax or if it should just be out of the general fund or different and budget for it that way. That would be my request, but I'm in favor of moving forward with this option.
Thank you. Mr. Red, can we
I think
make sure that Councilman Coates' concerns are addressed before next RAP tax?
Yep, I think that's an easy way to do it, and we can find a different funding source if you'd prefer.
But if it comes in and it's a sports, it makes sense. But if it's doing something that's outside of the RAP tax reasons, I think we need to go a different route with it. But we should support them where we can because they are great for our community.
Yeah, we'll make sure they understand the support too.
Mayor Pro Tem, I agree with Councilman Coates on that. It's a valued relationship between Washington City and the university. And, but I think we need to, and we want to continue supporting them, but I agree. I'd like to see a more detailed accounting of where these funds, have been spent in the future for all of them. And then, we may want to, after we take a look at that, see if it's really RAP tax funds that we want to use as support, or maybe some of it out of RAP tax and some of the other out of, general fund or somewhere else. But we value our, relationship with the university for sure. So.
Good comments. Council, any other comments? So council, if there isn't, I am prepared to make a motion on this. My motion is to approve an ordinance distributing recreational arts and parks tax to Utah Tech Athletics in their ask amount of $5,250, with a footnote to that before next application, that we have communicated the concerns that the council has so that they can be addressed appropriately at their next application.
I'll second that.
Okay, that was a motion by Councilman Ivy, second by Councilman Coates. I will start the roll call vote with aye.
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 Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Then ordinance 7E. This is a consideration to approve an ordinance distributing the recreational arts and parks tax to Washington City Leisure Services. If you remember, Barry Blake came up and presented completing the donated property just north of the Covington home to put in a parking lot, to modernize the existing metal building to make it era relevant to the antique building that is there, to provide bathrooms, to move an antique building onto site. And there was some discussion regarding the funds, and I think that we're comfortable with the idea that what can happen if that runs short. But Any discussion, council?
Mayor Pro Tem, this Covington home is one of our most valuable assets, I think, that we have in Washington City. I think that it's been underutilized and probably, because of the parking and the bathroom situation. And I think that this is going to be a good investment to help us to more fully use this, wonderful asset that we have in the Covington home. So I think it's a very good investment.
Thank you, Councilman.
Do we need any more discussion on the storehouse? Councilwoman Casperson, you had concerns. I'm just wondering direction-wise what you'd like to see.
Well, I wanted to present, and share what the Historical Preservation Commission, their advice on this. I did have a chance to talk to Barry about it, and he kind of shared more of the history of it and where it was originally. And so I'm comfortable moving forward, and I think after looking at the design plan and everything, I think it'll look really nice, and so I'm comfortable with moving forward.
Any other discussion, council?
The only other discussion is that in the motion, I guess I can make the motion and put my condition. Makes sense.
I think we're ready for a motion, Councilman.
So I'll make a motion. We approve the $250,000 for to the leisure services for the Covington home parking lot, with the condition that if we have to cut something because of cost, we cut the shed improvements first and then go from there. So
I got a motion by Councilman Coates.
I'll second that motion.
Councilman Martinson, second. We're going to do a roll call vote, starting with Councilwoman Casperson.
Hey.
Aye.
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 I am aye as well. Thank you. Okay, that concludes our RAP tax applications for 6 months. We appreciate everyone that's applied, and I hope that it's evident to our people here in the gallery and at home that this council takes great care of administering the citizens' money, that it's important that we distribute that in ways that benefits the most amount of people, and I appreciate the way that played out. Appreciate your involvement in that, council. So ordinance 7F is a consideration to approve an ordinance for zone change request 7-22-27 to update the existing planned unit development residential PUDR located at 1050 North Main Street, and I believe this is Drew Ellerman's item. Is that correct?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
Thank you.
As stated, the applicant is requesting approval of a new design use for this currently PUDR zone property. The acreage there is 22.55 acres. The property, as you can see, is located at that southeast corner of the Washington Parkway and Main Street. The property has a currently approved design and use of a different layout, townhome project, amenity area. That property was sold to the new applicant, and they wanted to come in with a different design and layout of this particular location. The PUDR requires an approved design and use plan before it can be built on and developed. The surrounding zoning to the parcel is PCD to the north, which is the new, Solente? Lente, potato. Okay.
You know how hard it is to type that E with
I
that
know, with that little.
I have to go
hyphen
find the
there.
symbol every time.
Yeah. And then you have the Brio PCD that is directly to the west across the street. Then located to the east is administrative professional with R16, and then on the south end is R16 zoning. And the general plan use designation is medium high density residential. That carries a 7 to 12 dwelling unit per acre ratio. This development is proposing a 7.2 dwelling unit acre per ratio, which is well within that In fact, it's almost right down the middle on it, as stated by the general plan. I will also note at this point that to the south of this is a regional detention pond that Sitla actually gave the land to the city. And in doing so, one of the requests was that they transfer the density up to this portion if needed. Neither project has had to use it. I think both of them were very well designed. This one has a few more lots. It actually feels like it's less for whatever reason in it. But so they're just, again, we're dealing with some density ratios that are well below what the land could have been used for. The project design is in compliance with the Planned Unit Development Residential Standards. As outlined, they are utilizing the multifamily standards as part of the PUD. The applicant is proposing 207 townhome units. The dwellings will be in the form of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and 4-bedroom units. A number of the units will have unfinished basements, and also a number of the units will also have a third floor, including the basement, kind of loft area, master bedroom, but yet an outdoor deck area, which I thought was pretty. I like the design if you've gone through your exhibits. But most of the units will have a 2-car garage, with a few of them, and specifically 35 of them, having only a single-car garage provided, but they will all have at least something in the form of garage. The breakdown of the unit types will be as follows. There is 1-bedroom unit, 73 2-bedroom units, 73 2-bedroom units, 76 3-bedroom units, and 57 4-bedroom units. Parking is well designed within this project, which is providing 548 parking spaces, and that comes in the form of 377 garage spaces and 171 outdoor spaces. This is not even including the driveway spaces that are also provided in front of those garages, which would be, is actually providing another 189 spaces above the 548. So the required parking as per the city code would be 511. And again, the 548 is 37 above that plus the extra. So this development, for a change, I don't have to have this uncomfortable feeling about parking. Usually if you read my reports on multifamily, that's always my little bit of a drawback. This one, I never had a second thought about, which is good. Amenities for the project are in the form of a clubhouse with a large swimming pool, playground area with shade covering, has 2 pickleball courts, 2 for the first time in the city proposes an amenity, 2 cornhole game areas, a fenced-in dog park area, and a walking trail system scattered throughout the open space area located southeast portion of this entire development. The project is proposing several landscaped open space corridors throughout the development as well. Planning Commission had the opportunity to review the request last week at their January 18th meeting. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of Z-22-27 for the zone change request from Planned Unit Development Residential to the new proposed Planned Unit Development Residential. Now it's on to the City Council, and it's based on the findings subject to the conditions. Now the conditions started out, because we tried to get them to get the amenities up in phase 1, they were all for that. And when we got into our Planning Commission meeting and the public hearing, it was kind of asked if they could push the pickleball court and the cornhole areas up here that you see where my arrow is, if they could push that to phase 2 because of the distance from the phase 1 and all the construction that'll be going on in phase 2. And the Planning Commission was fine with that, especially seeing what will come in phase 1 with again, you can see the pool area, playground, grass areas, all within that phase 1. So the Planning Commission was fine with that. Just to point out, there is one lone shade structure way over here on the north end. And we kind of talked about it, and I think everybody felt comfortable with it just coming in the subsequent phase. It'll benefit out there, but glad it's there, but is it going to hold up the whole rest of the project? Not in any way. So we were fine with having that come in at a later date as well. So with that, I'll be glad to kind of go through. Here is, of course, the site plan from a 10,000, square foot, 10,000 height view roughly. The elevations is, well, we'll just go through each one and kind of, well, this is a blow up of that specific amenity area as you enter, and the clubhouse, pool, playground area, and then the green play area along with the other amenities right there. Now, the designs on this are more of a modern versus the older one. In fact, I think it might be best if I switch over to the other exhibits right now, because I appreciated them putting them in their packet.
Can I ask a question while you have that picture up?
Which one? Which picture?
Of the driveways and the garages.
Okay.
Number one, I've never heard you be so enthusiastically reading your notes, which is great. I expect that.
I think it was that good
going
meal I had
forward.
tonight. Yeah.
He must have had a Coke with his dinner.
Yes.
You mentioned the driveways. You're not insinuating those driveways are counted at all in the parking numbers, are you?
No, when I stated it, I said they are above and beyond.
And this meets our new parking standards?
Well above our new park, yeah. This is all under the new standards, all the requirement, and they're still above and beyond.
Help teach me something too about a project like this, because in your background it says that it may be purchased, or it may be. What happens to the old approval if we give a new approval for this project? Does the old approval go away?
It goes away.
Completely goes away. Okay.
Yeah. Right now, it's what can be built.
Yes.
Right now, they could start to. Well, they kind of already did start, but then things happened. I don't know what happened. It's not. We don't really worry about what happened, but it has been. And I didn't know at the time when I wrote my report that it has been purchased. Right. It's done. So I thought it, because most of the time people go under contract and they say, I will buy this and everything if my project goes through. And then I come to find out that it's already been purchased by this new applicant. So to help clarify that as it relates to.
Can I ask a question, Drew?
Yes, please.
Just out of curiosity, are these units all for sale then?
For rent.
They're all for rent. So
that was talked about in the planning commission meeting.
Okay, so they'll all be owned by a single entity and they'll all be rented out?
Yes.
Okay.
And they stated, and it was asked about the basements. Well, why? And they said, well, it's a great place for storage. They're unfinished. Now, they could come back, it sounded like, if a client wanted to go in and go in a contract with them, they may finish them, but they wanted to leave them mostly unfinished for storage. So the garage is not used for storage. And that's always one of our concerns now. They've got basements under, not all of them, but some of them. And so that'll help with there. So just to give you an idea, here's the old approved plan and the design on it, followed up by the new proposal. Again, the layout just flows better for me. It may not for everybody, but I just kind of like even though there's more units in this one, it feels like the other one was more busy. Not saying that was wrong. I just appreciate the flow and the design on this particular project.
Really like that phase one includes all the amenities. It includes Main Street. It includes, so that's a lot of amenities that are coming in with phase one, and most of the streets, including the 2 access. Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
I think you did see that correctly. So here's on the top view is the current approved elevations versus the proposed elevations. Again, just the different in that style. This is more the modern look. Upgraded on that. And then from backside, just to give you the same look. Here's the garage version side of it versus the other ones. All the garages were right on the street that way, and the entrances were on the street as well. Now a lot of the entrances will be internal, in between, so the homes.
It's really helpful, Drew, to have those side-by-side comparisons.
I know, like I say, I appreciate them putting this together. It really helps out. I had the other approval ready to go, but then you have to keep switching back and forth. It's sure nice to see them one on top of the other. So kudos to the packet developer on that.
Is the single 1-bedroom unit for like an on-site manager or something, or is it just a random 1-bedroom unit?
You just had room for a 1-bedroom, just did it, so.
Okay.
It's for you. I would have bet money it was for an on-site person, but it's just for rental. So again, getting back elevations on the buildings. We can dig in some more if you have. In fact, speaking of the one bedroom, there it is. It's right at that entrance on the south end. The one bedrooms are right there, next to the one that I love on this deck above. So
Nice.
go ahead, Councilman Coates. It looks like you have a question.
So I just have some clarifying things that I think we need to at least bring up. One of the items that is, I would say, is missing is there's the 28-foot landscape easement, which is called out, but there's also a 28-foot power easement there as well, right on top, that's not on this plan. So I just want for the record that that is there, and it's for a future overhead power line, though, for our power department. Looks like Matt Lou's gonna come.
Matt Liu, American Land Consulting, opportunity to represent DAI. To your question, Councilman, again, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Ivy, Councilman, City Manager Red, and staff. This has been a kind of a fun project to work on, especially where it's going to be located. We're in Washington City, which we all know that's part of my heart. But to answer your question, we have worked with staff. We've got that addressed as far as how that's going to be handled with the easement to make sure that we are in the proper distance when the parkway is actually built out. We've worked with the power department, and I think we've got those resolved as far as what we need to take care of to make sure that that doesn't interfere with any future development or building or easement needs.
I just want to make sure it's on the record that that is on this map, that it needs to be as part of it, and that runs along the parkway from the west to the east.
Okay.
So that's one item. And then the other concern, and maybe you have an answer for me, is I noticed in the alleys you're doing an inverted section instead of a crown on the alleys, and with the asphalt, I have concern that the gutters, the asphalt's going to fall apart quicker. And with these being private streets, maybe I'm not as concerned, since I just found it's a single owner and they're renting it. That changes my mind, because then you're not asking for, it's their responsibility.
Correct.
I've found that there's always problematic when you do that if you don't put in at least a concrete gutter.
No, again, I appreciate that comment as well. The great thing about our client, DAI, they've been doing projects like this throughout the state. They've done 8,000 acres development, 20,000 units. I've been doing it for about 30 years. This is one of their first projects in the county, Washington County. When you do have time, if you do have a second, feel free to look into their website. A lot of the things that you see is stuff that they've already done. So going back to your comment on design, they're familiar with some of the challenges that might present. And I think they're comfortable with the design that they're presenting before you this evening, and how we could go about mitigating any, challenges.
And I hope, let me clarify that my concern came from the fact that if these were single townhome owners, that they would all have to pay into their HOA fee. My concern goes away when it's one owner that owns it all, and they know the responsibility there and can handle it. So my concern, I just had to bring it up. The other item I wanted to address was, I know the project got started for the other design.
Correct.
I guess I'd ask our Public Works if we figured out if there's any, I just don't want any like Band-Aids, sewers and laterals and whatever. I hope all that has to get fixed and all that. So it's more of a question for our Public Works, that they've got that figured out, or if it's going to get figured out, kind of a deal.
Yeah, if I could take a stab at it. Some of the existing infrastructure that lays has several outlets that will not work in this scenario. So we're going by and we're going to basically pull those out and follow our Public Works and the engineering guidelines to make sure that that's done correctly, to avoid any other issues that might arise because of so many. We won't cap it, in other words, but there's so many outlets. We won't go and just cap it. We'll, address it properly.
Okay, as long as you're well, I think I'll make in a condition is that you follow Public Works direction on how to manage those processes to clean up the utilities that are, I would say, partially installed.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, council members? City Manager?
Any other questions, Council?
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may take the opportunity just to talk about what you see and your recently adopted conservation ordinance. You'll notice that there's not grass in park strips, not grass in sloped areas, and that the applicant has planned the grassy areas to be in what your ordinance requires as active recreation areas. And you'll see there's really just 2 grassed sections. And so I don't provide that to influence your decision on this item, but just to show you that when you pass laws and adopt them into your ordinances, and then staff administers them at the planning level, you'll see what it does. And, compared to developments from 10 and 20 years ago, it's a much more conservation-based approach to landscape watering. And I think that's one of our goals, that we can stretch and conserve our water supply.
One more comment, if I could. Working with this owner and developer it's been pretty refreshing. Whatever the ordinances or codes of the city, they've been more than happy to comply with, and if not in certain moments, maybe exceed. They do their homework. They spent money on a market analysis. They feel that this product is not a product that is available in the county, so this is new, but they feel comfortable because of their experience in other parts of the state that this will be a good addition, I think, to the future feel and look of Main Street, as well as the future look of the Washington Parkway once Solente, how do you pronounce it again? Yeah.
Solente.
Once that development takes off and starts moving dirt, that would be a great, again, another great anchor. We feel sensitive to Main Street, Telegraph, Washington Parkway, and I think this would be a good location for a product like this.
So Mac, may I ask another clarifying question? So I know you plan on building the amenities in phase 1, but at what phase are you building the amenities? Because some of the problems we've had with other developments is that they build every single home before they'll even start the amenity. And then I just don't want to get in a conflict. Recently, people have offered to build them off the start, but it depends on, I know there's a huge financial, so I'm just asking you, what is kind of the tentative plan for your group to do that?
Yeah, but I believe, consulting with the owner, and he more than happy, Joel Spilsbury, he's sitting here. He's one of the principals of this development. This consulting with them, they recognize that they are the owner. They recognize that part of this project to be successful is marketing. And one of the biggest marketing pieces is the amenity package. So they know that that's first and foremost as far as getting more traction and getting attention to bring in tenants. But the other thing is, I believe, and Drew, you can correct me, I believe within the ordinance, there's a number or percentage that needs to be built prior to any type of a amenity package being called out. And I think in this scenario it was like 52, and with just phase 1, we are under that number. So I think we've got everything kind of in line to make sure that that amenity package is built in the forefront.
So saying that, I agree, usually it's been about the 30% rule. I don't remember what's exactly in, but I think that I would feel comfortable moving forward that before we final plat any additional phases, those amenities are complete.
Yes.
If that makes sense, because I totally get not doing them, but I'd also say that the landscaping along the parkway has to be complete before we can do any additional phases as well.
Council, I just want to correct you. There will be no plating because it's all owned by one person, so there will be no requirement for plating.
And before that first building permit of phase 2 then?
Yeah, before that. So I just, so you could clarify that, because if we go by that, we wouldn't have any ground. So, okay.
No, thank you for that, Drew. It's a little different than normal.
Yeah, so if you guys are okay with having, for your 52nd phase 1, you got to have all the amenities done.
Or phase 1.
In phase 1, it can in concurrent, right?
Because you pulled the pickleball court and the cornhole out. I would say that's part of phase 2.
Yeah. So, but they can't get a building permit for phase 2 until all your amenities are in 1. And the same with phase 3, you won't be able to get a building permit until the pickleball and cornhole are in. That's what we're saying. Okay.
And I'm saying as part of phase 1, we get the landscaping along Main Street. And phase 4 can do the landscaping on the parkway.
On the parkway.
I misspoke.
Just because the construction might be a little touchy.
Yeah,
Trying to get that right.
Makes sense.
And then maintenance with maintaining that landscape strip during that time.
I would just recommend that whoever makes the motion add that as number 11.
So I know that Councilman Martinson is the reigning cornhole champion at his work. And so I know that he appreciates the cornhole amenity, so.
First time.
Speaking of Council Martinson, he had to step out. He has to be excused. He has a rigorous schedule, so we appreciate him being here and the good that he does for us.
Well, I watched the planning commission, so a lot of my questions that I had were answered, and I'm glad that Council Segmiller brought up the Water Conservancy, because I feel like they did a good job with, making sure the grass is utilized in good areas, and I feel like it's important to have grass for kids to play on, and then I like that they have a separate area for dogs. So I feel like it's good design.
Thank you. Any other discussion, council? Okay, we are ready to entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion if that's all right, so I can, sounds like I need to. So I started writing them, but I'll make the motion that we approve the PUD development for the requested zone change Z-22-27 at the location of 150 North of Main Street, with the findings and conditions provided by staff, with additional condition number 11, that the developer work and comply with the requirements for amending the existing utilities already constructed. And then condition number 12 is that the amenities be built and constructed in the phases shown on the map prior to any building permits for subsequent phases.
Can we just amend condition number 10, because it talks about all the amenities anyway? And I'll just amend it to say what you've said.
Okay, I'll make that. So condition 10 is to talk about the amenities. Condition 11 is to work with Public Works on the changes to the utilities already installed. And then condition 12 would be that the landscaping along Main Street be installed prior to issuance of building permit in subsequent phases.
So that before phase 2 can get a building permit, you're saying all the landscaping on
Main Street.
Okay, I just want to make sure it wasn't prior to any building permit in number 1.
Nope.
Just in number 2.
It makes sense to get those houses built and then they can finish it. And I would hope they would do it sooner than later to help beautify it. But we understand there's some construction that needs to happen. Otherwise, they'll be doing it twice. So no reason doing that.
So we're good with that? Okay, council, I would entertain that motion and a second.
Well, that was my motion.
Yeah,
so
a second.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'll second that one.
Thank you. We're going to do a roll call vote. Let's start with you, Councilman Henderson.
Aye. Coates, aye.
Ivy, aye.
Casperson, aye.
That passes, but now that it's passed, I do have one kind of a comment, not really a concern about this project that I want to mention, and I do this for Mr. Segmiller. He loves when we talk geology. There's no calderas around there. There's a Washington Fault. Just want to make that known. So, no, we're excited about your project. We think it will be a great addition to our city. So, thank you. Good to see you, Mr. Liu. Appreciate you. Okay, that brings us to ordinance 7 ordinances G, which is a consideration to approve an ordinance for a general plan amendment, G-23-01, amending the Washington City General Plan to update the affordable housing section and the reference goals and objectives in the supplementary affordable housing plan. And council, if you remember, we heard this in our work meeting. Mr. Gibb did a great job explaining that and how we're under requirement by the city to set goals and with timelines to be in compliance. Any other discussion on this item, council? Okay, we'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance for General Plan Amendment G-23-1, amending the Washington City General Plan to update the affordable housing section and the reference goals and objectives in the supplementary affordable housing plan.
Thank you. Here's a motion by Councilwoman Casperson. Second, please.
Second by Coates.
Second by Councilman Coates. We'll do a roll call again. Start with you, Councilman Coates, please.
Aye.
Ivy, aye.
Casperson, aye.
Henderson, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes unanimously. Okay, that brings us to reports of officers from assigned committees. For those of you that are here, the mayor, by way of assignment, asks council members to serve on boards and committees, and then report back to the city. In many cases, we're the liaison for the city on those boards. As I said, Councilman Martinson had to leave, and so he won't be reporting tonight, but Councilman Henderson, you got something for us?
Mayor Pro Tem, I haven't had any meetings since our last time I reported. I did, the mayor, since he's out of town, asked me to attend a meeting for him this morning. It was over at the Southern Utah Home Builders Association, and it was a meeting of the mayors that talking, mostly about affordable housing and things like that. And they proposed that we have a meeting there on a regular basis. And what they're going to do is, they'll kind of rotate. Sometimes they'll have the mayors there, and then they're going to invite different council members from the different cities to come and just discuss, housing issues and things like that, just so that all the cities and the Home Builders Association are kind of on the same page when it comes to those issues. And, I thought that was a good idea. The mayors that were there thought that was a good idea. So I think that's something that we'll kind of see in the future. Those of us on the council will probably be invited to those meetings, on a occasional basis. So.
Great. That is a valuable partnership, and, working together and being efficient just helps to streamline and hopefully keep costs down. Appreciate that. Councilman Coates?
Nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And, it's, we could be here for quite a while if we want to talk to everything that's going on at the Capitol right now. I serve on legislative policy, and that's 45 days. That's fast and furious. And sometimes you just feel like no matter how much time you spend, you still could spend more to try to keep up with the bills. Jordan Hess, our policy advisor, is tracking bills. I am as well. And I know council has reached out and is tracking bills as well. The reason we do that is that we want to have a positive outcome to bills that might negatively affect our city or our residents or our tourism or our construction, and we could go on and on. It's quite an experience on the Hill, and it's a time that in the purest form of our Constitution, that we as citizens have a right to go and voice our concerns and elect people to represent our needs and wants. So I'm not going to go into any details. I would just, again, reach out to the council and say, if you have any bills that you hear of, anyone says to you that there's a concern and you would like help from me on that, just share with me what the bill is and we'll track it and see if we can get some information back. I have had a good ride along with our police department again. They shared with me kind of a summary analysis of the calls that our police department responds to, and it's staggering the amount of calls that they go out on. It's over 10,000 last year. And I think it's interesting, though, the total incidents decreased by 655 in the year. So, I hope that's a positive trend. And Chief, we appreciate you and all your department does. But that is all I have. Councilwoman Casperson.
Well, I had the opportunity to attend my first Washington City Youth Council meeting, and I'm really excited about that. They spent time thanking Councilman Martinson for his service, and they're just looking forward to going together as, to the legislature to meet with representatives and the governor, and they're getting ready for that, and they're really excited, so I'm liking it.
We're glad. That's a fun group. I can see you really enjoying that and really benefiting. Those kids are amazing. As their leaders are, Carmen Snow and Sherry Staley. Anyway, so that brings us to the city manager report. Mr. Red.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just wanted to update you on a few projects. We talk about them at the beginning, and sometimes we don't hear about them then and for a little while. But if you remember, in the Coal West Solis project, we're putting in the first pressurized water pump for the city. That project is under construction right now. We're optimistic about the timing. It's going well, and we're hoping for startup of that system in early April and see how that works. It could be used in other places if it goes well. Our AMI metering, I was at a meeting with the water department, and they are trying desperately to finish the last push to get those all in. That's a lot of work they've just done in between what they normally do with the water department, and I appreciate that push. But
Manager Red, may I stop you for a minute?
Yes, please.
Has the council checked out that app that deals with the AMI metering? It's super informative.
It's really cool.
It shows that I need work, and I'm going to work on it. So, but keeping that water down. But it's amazing to me to see how accurate it is and how on top. So I actually really applaud our Public Works for going that way. I think it's going to save a lot of water.
I was with them, and I can tell that they're going to be happy when they no longer have to install new water meters. I think it's been a big project for them. If you think of all the water meters in our city, but we hope to roll that app out to all of our customers by April 1st. And I think you'll see a really nice reduction in water usage and in leaks when we have that information. We've already found a lot of issues with leaks in our system, so that's really good. The Main Street interchange is now out to bid by UDOT, so we'll bring back more information as that bidding period ends. And every week, Barry gives me an update on the Parks building. I haven't been up there because I don't want to brave the mud in my car, but I hear that it's coming along really nice. They're now framing the inside of the building, so I'll try to get you some pictures for this week's email. I'll pass those along. That's all I have, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Red. Yeah, Mr. Fonsbeck, just to echo what he said, we appreciate Public Works. We know that that's been a huge undertaking as well as a lot of other things. So we appreciate your work on that. So, Council, with your permission, I'd like to ask for a personal privilege. That'd be okay. One of my good friends, a longtime city resident and friend to everyone that has ever known him, Jerry Sandberg, passed away. He lives just right across the street from the Covington Mansion. I first got to know Jerry when I was in high school and he gave me a ticket, but I really got to know him when he was our custodian at Washington Elementary. And I know that we can't mention every citizen when they pass, but I just would feel amiss if we didn't mention him and the great friend that he's been to our city for so many years. You know, he's the mainstay for the Lions Group and for really anything and everything that was needed. He's generous and he raised a great family. And, you know, I guess on another sense, I didn't remember this. Chief Williams shared with me that Jerry was also a police chief here in Washington. I must not have gotten a ticket from him over here, but just wanted to share our city's condolences with Jerry's wife, Mary Jane, and their kids and grandkids, and you know, and Jerry has a lot of family here in Washington as well, brothers and a great family and sister here that we share our condolences as well. Anything other, council, you'd like to bring up before we adjourn? Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
The second?
Second.
The second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Picture this so I
Recording stopped.